Thanks, Kathy, and thanks to the whole gang at Headline Books for letting me be a part of this fun panel tonight. Tonight, we're talking books and music, and we've got an amazing group of folks who've joined us this evening. Headline Books does all sorts of books. They do romance novels and thrillers and historical fiction, and they've even got this series of books from professionals in the music industry that tell the big behind-the-scenes stories. And tonight, joining us for the panel, my longtime friend and the winner of season 6 of NBC Television's America's Got Talent, Landau Eugene Murphy Jr., who also is the author of From Washing Cars to Hollywood Star. Also, Jeff Weber, who not only is a Grammy-winning music producer, he's an author now, and his second book has just come out. It's called You Sound Amazing. And I got a copy of it right here in front of me. This is every single lie of the music business, all right here. There's another great headline book by Pat DeCesar called Hard Days and Hard Nights. And if you ever wanted to know what it's like to go behind the scenes in producing and promoting the biggest concerts in the world, DeCesar writes all about that.
Burke, we lost your sound.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, I seen a mouse like click across the screen and then Burke sound went out.
Am I here now, gentlemen?
Yes.
Sure.
All right. We're talking about Pat DeCesar's book, Hard Days and Hard Nights. And Pat goes behind the scenes in his book about his role in bringing the Beatles to perform in Pittsburgh. And the very first stadium concert ever at Three Rivers Stadium. He promoted all the biggest shows in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And also joining us on the call today, two gentlemen who grew up on the streets of Washington, D.C., and they, along with their best friend, all his kids, all joined enormously successful music groups, the Temptations, the Platters, and the Drifters. Joe Coleman, who spent 2 decades with the Platters, Joe Blunt, former lead singer of the Drifters, all join us on our music panel as part of Headline Books Christmas Holiday Extravaganza. If you'd like to get autographed copies of any of these books, you can do it at headlinebooks.com, and you can get them in time to put them under the tree for Christmas. You know, music is a universal language, and these books all, fellas, do more than talk about music, though. They talk about these incredible life stories. You know, Landau, you went from being homeless at one point to winning arguably the biggest television show on the planet. Joe Coleman and Joe Blunt, you along with your friend Glenn Leonard, who would have thought 3 kids growing up together singing essentially in the street corner would join 3 of the biggest music groups of all time. And Jeff, you not only collect lies, but you have produced Grammy-winning songs for dozens of the biggest artists in music history from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, crossing all these genres from jazz to pop to rock and roll. And now all of us in the music industry find ourselves at home, unable to do what it is that you all love. And I just saw a post online, and I want to ask each of you this question about this post. It was a social media post just from a music fan who happens to be a friend. He's an attorney, and he had written, "It's been 366 days since I saw my last concert." And he had a little frowny face there. It's affecting everyone. So I want to start with you, Jeff, as a behind-the-scenes guy. Why do you think music is so important?
All I can say is imagine your life without notes, without a voice. You know, the silence is deafening. Imagine if you went into an elevator and there was no elevator music. You woke up and every radio station was talk radio. There's nothing to move you. There's nothing to feel. There's nothing to motivate you, excite you. I think that music is not only a part of our life, it's the fabric of our life. Music lets us be kids again. It informs us. We know where we were when certain things happen in our life because we remember the music. We remember those events. I am super excited to be on this panel today because when I was growing up, I was into the Stacks, the Volt, the Motowns. I was into the Temps and the Platters and the Drifters. So this is an honor for me just to be amongst these guys and hear what they have to say, because they were my heroes. Personally, I didn't really understand the Beatles, but I loved the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band, Booker T. I loved everybody that was on Stax and Motown and Volt. I loved that. That was the groove of my life.
Well, we've got a couple of those guys with us, Joe Blunt and Joe Coleman. And Joe Blunt, I'll start with you. When people come up to you and they talk to you about these classic Drifters songs, and you spent 10 years in the Drifters with Benny King and Johnny Moore, these legendary singers, what do they tell you about those songs and what those songs mean to them?
Well, you know, I think everybody has a favorite song or a few favorite songs that bring back memories, things that happened in their lives. And it's always interesting to me, the number of young people some of whom were not even born at the time that some of this music came out. And yet they are very familiar with the songs because they heard it from their parents and grandparents and so forth. And music is, as they say, the soundtrack of our lives. There's so many things that occur in life that you immediately associated with a particular song or whatever. And that's
right.
That's pretty much a very important part of our life.
And Joe Coleman, these songs that you sing from the Platters, some of the songs now are 50, 60 years old, but they still resonate with people. What do you think makes those Platter songs timeless?
You know, relevance is really an important thing, right? When you do songs that touch people's hearts in places, as Jeff put it, you know, these are songs that are kind of like they're markers for times in your life and places and situations, and they touch a place in your being, in your soul, that black or white. When you hear those songs, it takes you back to that place. And even if you're a young person, because we're starting to get a lot more young people tuning into those older songs, because they resonated in the proper way. It's almost tonal, that it touches something that, you know, great music is great music, whether you play it in 1930 or 1970. Great music just kind of transcends. It just touches it because it touches a place in your heart.
Landau, you're a young guy. You're the young guy on this panel, and yet you're best known for singing the oldest songs of anybody on the panel. And there are lots of young people that come out to your shows, and they want to hear those Sinatra songs and those Dean Martin songs, those Nat King Cole songs. What do you think it is about those songs that young folks are into?
For me personally, being the youngest guy, or just a young person anyway, those songs mean a lot to me because it's non-degrading music, and you know, it's just like it's like a song that you might hear today might talk about shooting, killing people, or what's under a woman's clothes or under a man's clothes. But these songs back in that time were, you know, timeless, and the words were selected in a beautiful way. It wasn't like they was just throwing a beat down and just saying whatever comes to mind. They did it in a very articulate way, and I gravitated towards that type of music because it just made me feel good. I felt like I was spreading joy to people in a positive way instead of giving them a negative or nasty taste in their mouth, you know, after a show or anything like that. And, you know, and I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Merry Melody, so, you know, that whole Rat Pack and Dean Martin and Bing Crosby type cartoons that was like making fun of all of that, like the singing rooster that would come out sing like Bing Crosby. You know, and the chickens would like melt. I mean, that was just exciting to me. And so once I got into the music world, I wanted to do that. I didn't want to. I mean, I could have took either avenue. I do a lot of hip hop and a lot of other things, but I wanted to do it in a positive way because I felt like if my grandmother couldn't watch it, I don't think I should be doing it. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. If you're just tuning in and maybe you're scrolling through your social media feed tonight and you're going, wow, look at these folks online. Who are these folks? These are the former lead singers of the Drifters, the Platters. We got the winner of America's Got Talent season 6 and Grammy Award winner Jeff Weber. They've all written books about their unique life experiences, and they're all published by Headline Books. It's part of our music panel discussion tonight and the Authors and Musicians Christmas Extravaganza. All the books are available, autographed at headlinebooks.com. Jeff, you have a unique perspective in that you have worked with an awful lot of incredible artists, and we have some incredible artists on the panel this evening. If somebody said to you, hey, you have an interesting job, you work with all these fantastic musicians, what is it that makes a great artist? What do you tell them? What makes a great artist?
What makes a great artist for me is passion, commitment, drive, persistence. Those are the only things we cannot teach. We can teach you how to play. We can teach you how to sing. We can teach you how to dress. We can teach you how to walk. We can teach you how to talk. But we can't teach heart. And that's the currency that great acts display when they sing or play. That is the connective tissue to the listener. That passion, that emotion is the intangible. You can't describe it, but you know a heartfelt song when you hear it. It's kind of like pornography. You can't really define it, but you know it when you see it. You know what I mean?
I see right now we're going to have to give Weber less questions than we give the other guys.
Sorry, guys.
Joe Coleman, let me ask you, because you have toured with some amazing artists. You toured with Barbara Streisand. It doesn't get much bigger than that, amongst many, many others. What makes a great artist to you? When you look at somebody, you go, wow, they really got it. What is that thing?
You know, it's probably not that easy to identify, but to me it's commitment, right, to your art, to your thing, and that just that piece in that's the God-given piece that can't even be described really. Someone and they step out there and they take the stage and they own it and they open their mouth and these beautiful tones. And sometimes, you know what's interesting? Sometimes the tones aren't that beautiful. It's not, you know, I mean, if you think of artists, different types of artists who Joe Cocker or somebody like that who didn't deal in beautiful tones, but it was earthy and it was, you know, it was heartfelt and it took you all the way in. It wasn't about beautiful tones at all. It went to completely the opposite direction. You know, one artist that I had the great opportunity to perform with was Al Green. Now, Al Green could sing, but completely in a different place. It was nothing like Smokey, was nothing like Peabo Bryson, was nothing like Nat King Cole or anybody like that. You know, he went into that Southern thing and he owned it, and he lit that stage up. Every time he touched the stage, I was in awe of this guy. So it was that thing that he steps out there and he just goes for it. And he's full out. He's all the way in, and the music is running the show. He's riding those tones and that music. That band, he had one of the hottest bands ever. Oh, you taking me back. But it was just a realness to the music that's indescribable.
I love that. I love that you're a fan as well as a great singer. And by the way, if any of you who are watching have a question for any of our panelists tonight, just type them in there and we'll be happy to throw them out to all our folks. Joe Blunt, you know, you actually were in a group with two incredible singers. I mean, Benny King and Johnny Moore sang the lion's share of all those big Drifters hits. and there are four of you on stage. And I wonder if there were ever times when you looked around and you thought, wow, I can't believe I am here.
More than once.
Mm.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. I think the thing that impressed me even more so than their musical gifts were that they were really down to earth cats and great to work with. And as a young person growing up, I heard a lot of their songs myself when I was probably 9 or 10 years old, that were big hits records and so forth. And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would wind up someday performing on stage alongside them. It was quite an honor and something that I always treasured. And they were genuinely great people to work with as well. Made it even better.
Let me keep it with you for a second. What did you learn from those guys? You were in the Drifters in the 70s and 1980s when that group had a big career resurgence in England. You had top 10 hits, a couple of #1 hits in England. What did you learn from those guys, from Benny King and Johnny Moore?
Not a thing. No, I'm just, actually, no, you know, the thing that impressed me most about both of them, they had a way of dealing with the public that was totally genuine, and you know, it was great to watch how they behaved. And when the crowds came around and people wanted autograph, sign, and everything, they were always very patient and very polite and all of that. And they had a certain wisdom about them, I guess, having been in the business for so many years. It transcended a lot of what you would expect from anybody, really. They were amazing to work with. Both had their own special personalities that blended in with everybody else. And it was just a great atmosphere and a great working with.
Landau, you know, I was there the very first night of your very first Christmas concert, which amazingly was, 10 years ago. This would be your 10th anniversary of the Christmas tour. And I'll never forget, you know, it was the Clay Center, which is a big, beautiful performing arts center in Charleston, West Virginia. And when you walked out on that stage, just the whole state, it seemed like was there with you and pulling for you. And it was, your hair blew back, but you did something Joe Blunt just talked about. After that show, I'll never forget, we hustled you out to the front of the arena and you signed autographs for 3.5 hours and did pictures with people. And the security guys and the cleaning guys were the only ones that were still there besides you. How important do you think that part of it is? And why is it important to you to do that?
That's a big important part of it. You know, being an entertainer, I mean, because your fans are the people who actually give you your lifestyle. You know, I wouldn't be driving a Mercedes Benz if they didn't buy a ticket or if they didn't buy my album or things like that. And then it's very important to me because as a little kid, I've always wanted, you know, to be able to walk up to Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson or Mike Tyson or any one of those guys and get an autograph. I mean, I got probably every pair of Michael Jordan shoes that ever came out, but I've never met the man. He's never sent me a letter. He's never signed an autograph for me. So, I mean, I just always felt that was very important. And as a young teenager, growing up in Detroit, Michigan, the Pistons used to come to our neighborhood. They actually built a playground around the corner from me. And like John Sally and Joe Dumars had a field house that I used to play basketball in. And John Sally was like basically a mentor to all of us, you know, youth that was in the inner city. And he would come out and speak to us all the time and sign autographs, take pictures with us. And then as we all grew up, you know, I grew up with Chris Webber and Fab Five, you know, most of those guys. And so when Chris Webber actually made it to, you know, to the Golden State Warriors after he got drafted, he came back to the neighborhood and he would pick me up, you know, in his brand new big Suburban. It had like 12, 15-inch woofers in the back. He had took the whole back out of it, but he was still like a big kid, but he always came back to the community And we would go through the projects and through the, the bad neighborhoods and pass out school supplies and backpacks and things like that for kids. And he basically showed me that, you always give back, no matter how big you get. And it just stuck with me. So as a kid at heart, I always want to do that for each and every one of my fans, no matter who it is, no matter what walk of life they come from. I want to be the first person in the building, doing sound check, rehearsals, doing the show. After the show, I go straight out to the place where we're signing autographs. I sign autographs for the first person all the way down to the last, and even, the janitor and then people that's cleaning up afterwards, the ushers and everybody, the parking attendant, everybody. I'm the last person to leave that place, and that makes me feel like I've served my purpose. Because it's a lot of people in this world that never get the opportunity to meet a famous person, or just an entertainer in general. So and I take it from the best people like Joe Coleman and Joe Blunt. It's just something that we're supposed to do when we've been blessed. It's called paying it forward.
Landau Eugene Murphy Jr. is the season 6 winner of NBC Television's America's Got Talent. His debut album spent 6 weeks #1 on the Billboard Jazz charts. Jeff Weber, your very first album that you ever produced had some pretty heavy-duty jazz cats on it, and you kind of had to connive your way into getting that job. And now look at you all these years later. So was that the basis of?
Was that
you in fact started your career on a lie?
Well, I guess I did.
Tell that story, because it's an amazing story.
I was in law school, and I tried to get a job in the summers, and there was a record industry trade publication called Cashbox magazine, which is no longer in existence. There were 3 at those times. Billboard is the only surviving magazine, and they needed someone who could take the lawsuits that were being filed regularly and synthesize them down into 2 or 3 paragraphs so that the readers of Cashbox magazine could know, for example, why the Eagles were suing David Geffen and this and that. And during that time, I was listening to a lot of music that would come in, and I noticed that a lot of it, to my taste, was pretty crappy. And I decided at that point that I was going to make 1 record and then go back and try to spend the rest of my life trying to pass the bar exam. So I went to 3 musicians and I said, "I'm Jeff Weber, the record producer." Right? And I was expecting, like, well, what have we heard that you've done? And instead they were musicians. And they said, "So what are we making on this?" And because I was so damn experienced, I said, "What do you want?" And they told me. And because I was so damn experienced, I said, "Okay." Then I went to a company in St. Louis who was making record care cleaning products. And I said that I had, first of all, I said that I'm Jeff Weber, the record producer, and I'm sure you've heard of me, wink, wink. And I expected them to say, "Well, have we heard anything that you've done?" I was prepared for that, but they didn't ask me. I told them my idea of working, creating a demonstration disc for their products using these 3 musicians, and we would do the record direct to disc, which means that they would record an entire side at one time, all the way from the top all the way into the paper. We would eliminate tape altogether and just record onto the master lacquer. As you can see, you might imagine it's a very, very dangerous way of recording. I did a lot of that. Actually, I'm only 12 years old right now. This is what live 2-track and direct disc recording does to me. Anyway, so we went ahead and had to figure out how to make a record because the company said, "Okay, let's do it." Then I didn't really know. I actually found a recording studio in the phone book under recording studios, and I recognized RCA. I thought, "Oh, okay, that dog is still around, so let me just go there." And I asked for a tour, and what was amazing for a tour, I wouldn't know anything. I just saw a bunch of lights and buttons, and I'm nodding like I know exactly what's happening. And And so then the guy, the piano player who was acting as the leader, asked me, what are we doing? You know, a real big challenge to me, because I knew that if I opened my mouth, you know, what would happen?
Found
then.
out.
They would fall, they would all, you know, the gig would be up. So I decided to pick old songs that they already knew, so I could keep a big fat mouth shut. And it worked out really great. And the next, you know, the record company, or the you know, the record care cleaning company, was with Disc Washer, if you remember them, said, let's do 2 records next year. This turned out to be great. By the way, the 3 players was the bass player was, the piano player was Paul Smith, Ella Fitzgerald's piano player for 30 years. Ray Brown on bass, can't get much better, and Louis Bellson on drums. And believe me when I tell you, they were effortless. The vibe, the playing, no matter what we threw at them, they just did it. And it was amazing. I went on to do quite a few records with Paul Smith, and those guys remain family. Every record I do, you know, artists are my family. I mean, I love you.
It'd be hard to screw that up with those 3 guys.
Exactly. My kneecaps were shaking so badly, I figured, holy cow, please don't say anything. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, you're the producer. You have to assert your dominance. So I had to figure out what to say. I thought, you know, if I really liked it, it would be easy. Hey, it's great. But what happens if I didn't like it? Wait a minute. You don't know anything about whether or not you're going to like it or not like it. So how do you know you even don't like it? You know, but you had to say something, right? At least I thought so at the time. I learned better now. So, you know, my comment to Paul was, hey, Paul, you know, that big first part, which I later found out was called the introduction, that was good. And then there was 2 other parts. There were big parts like this, and then there were 2 other parts, and then there was a small part that didn't last very long. What part was that part? Can you imagine if you heard that from a producer? You'd either shoot him or ignore him or send him out to pick up the pizza. Yeah. You know, so it didn't go well, at least from that standpoint. But the label liked the product.
So it all worked out. So you fake it till you make it. That's how it worked for Jeff Weber. His book, by the way, I've got a copy here. It's You Sound Amazing, Every Single Lie of the Music Business. It's just one of the great books available from Headline Books, along with Landau's book and My Time to Shine. And 2 of the 3 authors of My Time to Shine, Joe Blunt, Joe Coleman, join us. Mr. Coleman, I have to ask you about that sort of amazing story of the 3 of you guys growing up together and then going into 3 of the biggest music groups of all time, because that's a 1 in a million thing. Yeah. You and Joe Blunt have known each other since you were how old? You were little kids, right?
Yeah, about 7 or 8 years old. Yep,
wow.
Known each other since then. Yep.
How did you meet?
Well, as you put it, it's one of those absolutely could never happen kind of stories. You know, I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom, I came home from school, and Mom said it's time to go to choir rehearsal. And I said, you know, Mom, I'm not in the choir. She said, oh, I didn't tell you. You're in the choir. And you know, go to choir rehearsal, and who's one of the first people I meet was this young man, Joe Blunt, and his brother Bernard, Alvin, because his mom and my mom were co-directors of the junior choir at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. And so neither one of us recalls being asked to be in the choir, but that's where we learned everything we know about, you know, harmony and group singing and that sort of thing. So it was certainly the launch pad for us heading toward a music career.
You got drafted into the junior choir, and then Joe Blunt, you went to, if I remember the story right from the book, you went to junior high with Glenn Leonard, who went on to be in the Temptations. Is that right? Is that where you guys met?
Yeah, originally, yeah, junior high school, and went to high school together as well. And all started way back when.
Wow. Just incredible. And as you talk about in the book, even as a kid, he would tell people he was going to be in the Temptations someday.
Yeah, he kind of owned that. And people would look at him as if to say, yeah, right, okay. But he had a vision, I guess, and we all look forward to hopefully one day achieving some success in this business, and amazing how it all turned out.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that's one of a visualization story because Glenn modeled himself after Eddie Kendricks. He dressed that way, his whole carriage and demeanor was Eddie all the way. So he absolutely set himself on that trajectory and never left it until he got there. It was amazing because he definitely just it embodied that whole Eddie Kendricks kind of thing. He had the voice, with that high tenor voice and the tall, slender look. He wore his leather jackets and all that stuff, just as Eddie would. I believe in certain circumstances he could have walked in and said, "I'm Eddie Kendricks," and folks would have believed it.
They would have bought it. And that's the way that you guys all met Landau, because when Landau, he had that first album that did so well. And for the next album, I said, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to do a Christmas album." And I said, "Well, all right, think about your favorite Christmas songs." He said, he looked up at the sky and he said, "I'm thinking about the songs I listened to when I was a kid." And I don't know if you remember this conversation, Landau, but you said one of our favorite Christmas songs at my house when I was a kid was what?
Silent Night by the Temptations.
And Glenn Leonard was the lead singer of Silent Night by the Temptations. And I stumbled across the fact that the three of them, were here in Washington, D.C. And then you had the opportunity to bring him in and duet with him on your version of Silent Night on the album. So what do you remember about that day in the recording studio, the first time you met Glenn Leonard from the Temptations?
Oh, I was just so happy that he was there and I was actually looking at him, but I remember being, in the control room and looking at him through the glass while he was behind the microphone and he wouldn't put the headphones on his afro. He just, I swear, y'all, he was singing with the headphones pulled apart like this. He never put them on his ears. Never. So I was thinking like, man, if the headphones are up so loud, isn't that going to feed into the microphone? But I guess it never did. But he never put the headphones on. He always just held them off his head because he didn't want to mess up his afro. And that just stuck. I was just like, what is he doing? We kept pushing the button like, no, you got to put the headphones on. I'm like, we can't really tell him that this is an ex-Temptation. I'm pretty sure he knows this. But he wouldn't put them on. He would not put the headphones on.
That's a great story.
That's a good one.
Do you remember that, Burke?
I did not remember he would not do that. That's great.
He never put the cans. That's what they call it. He never put them on his ears. Never. The whole time we did that album. And then I did my parts, and then he came in like maybe, I guess it was around 9:30 at night when he finally got there, and it was cold. So he never took his scarf off. He still had on his long trench coat. He shook my hand and said, "Yeah, man, we about to do this. Let's go." And he went in there. I left out of there, and I'm sitting there in awe, like in the control room, just looking through the glass, like I can't believe Glenn Leonard is here, and I'm about to record Silent Night with one of the ex-Temptations. And it was just like, wow. And then he grabbed the microphone. He's like, "Okay, can you turn it up?" "Thank you. All right. Yeah. Okay." And he sit there, but he never snapped them on his head. He never put them on his head. He would not touch that afro.
That's a great
See,
story.
now you've gotten to do something really cool, Landau. You've gotten to perform with a bunch of these legendary artists and meet them because of your own success. A lot of people probably saw you sing with Patti LaBelle on America's Got Talent, and you did that show with George Benson at the Grove in Los Angeles, and the Temptations, and of course Joe Blunt and Joe Coleman. What's that mean to a younger artist, coming out, and you're coming out of your first album, and even before your first album with Patti LaBelle, when you sang with her, what's it mean to you to be able to sing with these legendary acts?
Oh, it means a lot because you always want that confirmation. And if you do it with a legend and they like you, then there's probably nowhere that you can't go and perform at your best, to the best of your abilities. I mean, to actually be on stage with Joe Coleman, Joe Blunt, Glenn Leonard, Patti LaBelle, all of those greats, it motivated me even more to want to just be that person. You know, at the time I was kind of shy in it. I mean, I kind of stumbled on this whole thing with Frank Sinatra through the cartoons and being in a rough neighborhood. I was singing these songs to stop people from fighting over a foul call or shooting up the playground, you know, but it snowballed. And then more in the community that I was in, it was Def Comedy Jam to them. But when I went to the suburbs, they basically showed me the gift that I really had. It was like you can actually, and then I learned that I could actually earn a living from it. So once that snowballed and I go on this show and win this big contest, then I get to meet, you know, Joe Coleman, Glenn Leonard, all the greats. And it's just, I just knew I was there. I was like, my dream is actually happening right now. And no one could ever tell me again that dreams don't come true. No one could ever tell me that there's something that I cannot do. And so for as a young man talking to another young person or an upcoming person, I just want to let them know to always follow your heart, always believe in yourself, you know, and then when you get to the stage where you can be on the stage with a legend, you just do your part, you know, and you still be in awe of their greatness because that's basically where you got it from. I watched the Temptations, I watched Marvin Gaye, I watched Michael Jackson. You know, I watched the Platters with my grandparents and all of those things. It was just, and now I'm standing on stage with them. They've been great mentors to me, and I just want to take that whole lesson and pass it on to somebody else. You know, when I get as old as they are.
Now, wait a minute.
What was that, Joe? What was that? Huh?
I don't know what that was. I think it's going a little too far.
He kind of hit us in the back of the head by giving us a compliment and pow, right upside the back of the head.
Yeah. Well, and then it went off track there for a minute.
They already know me. Those guys have been on the stage with me. We have such a good time. We were very spontaneous together. I mean, we really never even know how the show was going to go, but it's the best thing that I've ever experienced.
Landau, there's some pictures up on the screen right now for the folks who are watching on their social media feeds. And again, if you have any questions or comments for our panelists tonight, send them to us. We'd be happy to ask them. Pictures of you with Jeff, who produced your latest album, Landau. What does a producer ideally bring to a session for you? What is their input, and you know, how does that collaboration work? Because a lot of people don't know even what a producer does that are outside the industry.
He knows the ins and outs of the music and how am I supposed to, like, you know, bring the lyrics across the notes of the band that's playing, you know, and it's just like he guides you into a place that you didn't even think you could go. You know, I mean, I was very nervous just being in Capitol Records studio alone. So I'm trembling inside and all of those feelings are running through you, all these different emotions. He calmed me down, he gave me a sandwich. and I was
just told you lunch.
And he basically told me, hey, this is your project. We're going to do this exactly the way you want it. You know, and he introduced me to a whole lot of fantastic musicians and people in the music industry. And we also, we did some stuff in a historic place. I think it was called, what is it, Wonderland or something like that?
Oh, yeah, up at Clark's studio for the vocals.
Yeah, which was right next door to the massacre and the movie Boogie Nights. Like, you know, so it was all fantastic, you know, hanging out with Jeff Weber. And that picture on the left is me and him in Capitol Records, I believe. And then the one on the right is when I sung the national anthem for the LA Lakers.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jeff has been a big part of my success, you know, and I thank him for, you know, helping me out with those albums. And then actually doing the next album, it was, you know, crazy, you know, just putting that whole thing together. And the crazy part about it is I remember I was singing so much and then going back and forth to different climates from East to West Coast, but I actually had a throat cold or something. And we went and found some honey, Ricola. We went and got some of those, and then he just told me, just relax. Don't try to push through it. Just, get in your groove and knock these songs out. We knocked them out in like maybe 2 days. And then, him and the engineers, they all mixed it down and it became a fantastic album. He actually introduced me to the lady from Atlantic Star. What's her name?
Barbara Weathers.
Barbara Weathers. Yeah. And I always loved her from Secret Lovers and all of these other songs that she had done when I was a kid. And so I got to like hang out with her and, just, living my dream every day. So, I thank Jeff Weber for, believing in me.
I wanted Landau to stand on the same spot where Frank Sinatra stood. Because he was doing the American Songbook. So let's put him at Capitol Records. Let's put him right in the spot so that he's a part of that community, and I thought that would be fun,
Yeah, and it all worked out because that was a big, inspiration for me, to hold those old microphones.
Yeah.
And see the room that still looks the same as when they were there. The little scratched in notches in the wood where they was just carving their name and stuff. And I mean, it was just beautiful. I would love to do that again, in my lifetime.
You will.
And I encourage any kid that, decides to make an album to go to Capitol Records and do it because it's a beautiful feeling. It's just something you can't even imagine.
We have a few musicians that actually were in the Frank Sinatra band who played on Landau's record.
Exactly.
So I wanted to make that connection for Landau so that it came alive for him in a different way, And then we also got a chance to do music that Landau wanted, just kind of to show his variety and that he's not a one-trick pony, and that was important to me.
And that's huge. And I know, having worked also with Joe Coleman and Joe Blunt, those guys have very musical taste. Joe Blunt's done a lot of theater, and Joe Coleman has sung standards and jazz. There's a great story, since we're talking about producers, Joe Blunt, in My Time to Shine, where you guys, the three of you, Glenn Leonard, Joe Coleman, Joe Blunt, had a band in the early 70s that was signed to Atlantic Records, and you had some pretty amazing producers on that album too. So talk to us about that and what that meant as young guys in your early 20s to have the opportunity to work with those producers.
Well, we signed with Atlantic. We actually using a production company out of D.C., consisting of myself and Willie Lester, Tyrone Lester, and then Rodney Brown. We put together some tracks and gone to Atlantic Records. Trying to stop going there. And it all worked out in the end. And we got a chance to work with a lot of the guys that were at that time involved with Philadelphia International. The whole scene, Ronnie Baker, and quite a crew of fantastic musicians that put music together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. We recorded at Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia, where a lot of the actually the OJs and the whole Philadelphia International crew recorded that. It was quite an experience. It really was very enjoyable, and I thought that the product that we came out with was good enough for sure to get us over that hump, so to speak. Didn't quite work out that way, but it was, I think, a great album. And even now, that album gets a lot of attention on the internet and so forth for a lot of the music that came out of there, some of which the general public has not even heard. It was
What's
music.
interesting, though, Joe Blunt, about that album is that as a testimony to how great the music was, as you guys know, a lot of those songs on that True Reflection album, you can still find that online, were sampled by a bunch of huge hip-hop artists. And Joe Coleman, I want to toss it over to you because Landau said something interesting when he was talking about working with you guys. He's a young artist. You guys are the veterans. But at that time, in the True Reflection, you and Glenn Leonard and Joe Blunt, I mean, you played with some of the biggest artists in the early 70s as their opening act. Who do you remember being out with that just blew you away, that you thought was incredible?
Well, that depends on what night it was. We did work with the work with the Isley Brothers and Teddy, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. When Teddy was the lead singer, and New Birth and uh, Smokey and the Miracles and the Dramatics and all those guys. I mean, they were. I do remember we were somewhere in North Carolina, and the Dramatics was tearing the place up. They were just lighting the place up. And what struck me about it was the next night we were in another section of North Carolina. We were up in the hills, up in the mountains, should I say? And they came out with the same fire, and the audience said, "That's nice." It was a crazy. At the very next night, I mean, they went from tearing the house down to the very next night. The audience was like, "Okay, well, okay."
Oh my gosh.
It blew my mind. It made me realize just how fickle the business is, because as a young cat, just trying to figure it all out, that was almost frightening to me that you could go from being, I mean, they were so hot that first night that no one really wanted to come on after them, and I don't think anyone did. But the next night, it was like, okay, but they were to be had,
Right.
But yeah, but I'm blessed to work with some really, really great artists over the years, and learn something different from each of them. Work with Lou Rawls, and work with B.B. King, and even Ike and Tina Turner and all that stuff. And it was just an interesting variety of great artists that brought their own flavor. That's probably one of the big things about music back then. Everybody absolutely had their own flavor. It was just, there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff going on right now, but a lot of
Joe, you have a story in My Time to Shine, which is your book with Joe Blunt and Glenn Leonard, where there's sort of a parallel with one of our other panelists, with Landau. Landau is very frank in his book about how tough things were for him, and how he was homeless at one point and had to sleep in his car. And when he finally did get a house at one point, that people came in and robbed everything out of that house, even ripping the copper from the walls and all that. Times got kind of tough for you after the True Reflection. And I don't want to put you on the spot too much, and maybe a sensitive topic, but you wrote about it, so I'm going to throw it out there. Talk to us about that tough time in your life.
Yeah, I had to really think about writing about that. But yeah, after True Reflection, we were all stunned, because we thought we were on the path toward great success, and
you were right there. I mean, you were so close.
Yeah, we were right, absolutely right there, absolutely. And so the business is that fickle, and so there we were. I moved to New York to see how I could get this thing straight. And in the course of all of that, kind of got a little crazy, got into the nightlife, into the life and all of that, and found myself at a point where I was didn't have a place to live. I was staying with friends, and I spent some nights on a park bench on Central Park West. Again, ironically, about a block or so from where I have an apartment in New York now, currently. And things got really tough, and I had literally one dime in my pocket, one. And I held on to that dime with the thought that at some point I'll probably have to call somebody to come and help me. At that time, a phone call was a dime, but I just couldn't do it. And fortunately, I ran into a friend who indicated that she was a lounge singer in Atlantic City, and she had run into the Drifters, and they'd come to see her show the night before. And she said, you know, they let me know that the Platters were looking for a new lead singer, looking for a new singer, not so much a lead, but a new singer. And she gave me the number, used that dime to call and got an audition and
Oh man,
turned me around.
that is
Turned me
beautiful.
around, set me back on the path toward, you know, a great career opportunity for me.
And at that point, it must have been tough for you because by then, if I have the chronology right from the book, Glenn had gotten the job with the Temptations,
Yeah,
and enjoyed great success. Did that big reunion album and tour. Joe Blunt was in the Drifters in England and had #1 hits and top 10 hits, and
yep.
he's with Benny King and Johnny Moore, and you're on a park bench. So what
Yeah.
does that do to you in your head?
It's the farthest thing from anything that I thought would ever or could ever happen to me, you know. So it was quite a humbling experience. The way I tell it is that the part about staying with friends, that kind of thing, it allowed me to keep my clothes clean. So I was always well dressed. I was well dressed all the time. I kept a briefcase and all that kind of stuff, and which allowed me to go into like Amtrak and sleep there sometimes because I looked like I was a traveler,
Right.
and I was able to keep up the imagery with my those who weren't so close to me. Actually, I don't think there were maybe one or two people even knew my real circumstance, and just allowed me to maintain and that kind of thing. But it was humbling. So I don't mess with that now. I know that it can be, it's like this and things could change. So I believe it's important that we are good to people, that we, clear about who we are, clear about that this is not us. It's a God-given thing, talent and an opportunity that we just have to honor. And that's how I view it.
The talent and the work ethic is what makes for a long career. And that takes me to when we're doing this interview live. We're just a few days away from Thanksgiving, and it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for everybody on the planet. But I want to ask each of you, and we'll start with Jeff Weber. In the Thanksgiving year of 2020, what are you thankful for?
Breathing. My survival tactic is breathe in, breathe out, repeat. I'm thankful that I can speak with my family. I can be there with them and for them. I'm thankful that I get a chance to talk to, friends and people that I've admired and people that I've worked with. I miss the camaraderie of gathering. I miss live music. It's like getting a transfusion, there's something missing without that. I'm thankful for the fact that I actually know and believe in my heart that we'll get back to live music at some point, and I will definitely be there. And I'm thankful right now that we're all healthy and we're all talking to each other. This has been a murderous time for us let's face it, we've had to deal with things that we never dealt with in our life. The political landscape has never been something that we could have ever expected. The virus, has never been something that we've ever known how to handle. So I'm thankful that we're here. I'm thankful that we're taking precautions and that we can be here for our families tomorrow and the next day, because tomorrow is not promised. So I'm grateful for that.
Joe Blunt, what about you? What are you thankful for in 2020?
Well, I guess, first of all, I'm just thankful to be here. There's so much craziness going on these days, especially the virus and just everything in general. The whole climate is crazy. Everything's kind of turned upside down. But I'm grateful that God is able me to hang around a little while longer and just try to deal with things as they come. I'm fortunate in having great family ties and a good woman behind me and all of that. That helps a lot as well. But these are difficult times for sure. I've never seen anything like it. And I hope that it's on the way out and that in the very near future that things will turn around. That's quote unquote normal, whatever that is.
You know, I just have to tell you guys, I am thankful for Joe Blunt's smile. That smile lights up the room. It makes me feel better. Thank you for that. Joe Coleman, what about you in this very tough year? What are you thankful for?
You know, I feel like the Lord kind of touched us on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you know, guys are kind of getting a little off center here now. You've forgotten what this life is about and what you're here for, to to help others and to support and be again a good person and to honor your family and your friends. I'm blessed to have a wonderful wife who takes good care of me, and I can count on her in all manners. And I'm blessed to have good friends and to be able to look back and think of about good times and all the people that have been supportive of me. I often thank the Lord for those that He brings to me to help me along my way and to bring flavor to my life and that sort of thing. So I'm just grateful to be here and be amongst people that are good people. I feel like I'm blessed to know some really wonderful people, and that's a great opportunity, and to have a great family that supports me no matter what happens.
Landau, I know it's been tough for you. You're a people person. You like to be out and taking pictures and shaking hands with people, and you can't do it. I mean, you haven't been able to do a concert since February, and yet you are one of the most thankful people I've ever met. What are you thankful for this year?
I think I'm most thankful for just the downtime, like Joe Coleman just said. It just puts everything in perspective. I mean, I've been going for 15 years straight. I mean, 5 years before America's Got Talent, and then after America's Got Talent, these whole 10 years with you. So it's just been, I've never had the time to actually like sit back and reflect or even celebrate, the blessings that I've had. I mean, I look around now and I still have a roof over my head, my lights are on. I'm spending a whole lot of time with my 3-year-old that I probably wouldn't be having right now if this pandemic hadn't happened. Also just thankful to still be here and being healthy enough to deal with, catching the coronavirus and being strong enough to fight through it, being blessed enough, that God like saw me through it. And then too, with all the downtime, I actually graduated high school, something that I always wanted to do. I ended up, getting my GED. Yeah, so I'm thankful for that. I've been wanting to do that for so long. It's something that I really regretted for like my whole life. I felt like I accomplished so many things, but that one thing just always was in the back of my mind, because I know I'm not an idiot and I know I'm not stupid, but I feel stupid that I graduated out, that I didn't graduate from high school, that I dropped out of high school. So I just thank God for the downtime. You know,
You put it to great use. When you had that opportunity and you weren't on tour, you did something a lot of people didn't do. A lot of people put the sweatpants on and hit the Netflix, and you hit the books. You said, you know what? I've always wanted this, and this is a good time to do it. You went back to school and got your diploma 30 years later. That's a big deal. So hats off to you. And by the way, a lot of people watching may not be aware that you did, in fact, have COVID-19, and you were able to get through it. And so you had a pretty eventful 2020 all on your own, young man.
yeah, it's been crazy. Like, I lost my sense of taste, my sense of smell, so I'm a big Kool-Aid fanatic. And this is like a funny story. Um, I love Kool-Aid, and I don't buy the Kool-Aid that's already mixed with the powder and the sugar at the store. I still buy the little packs. You gotta rip it open, put it in a pitcher, add your own Kool-Aid, sugar to it. Yeah. So I made a batch of it and put it in the refrigerator, let it get cold. I made a pizza. I ate this whole pizza to myself, like one of those DiGiorno pizzas that you buy from like Walmart or something, or Kroger's. And I couldn't taste any of it. And I didn't understand why at the time. I was just like, I can't taste the pizza. I can't smell it. And I was like, man, it's okay. I'm just gonna keep eating. And I got some Kool-Aid on the refrigerator. It's nice and cold. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid like, but I can't taste the flavor. I just know it's cold. It's like cold water, you know? So, you know, after a while, my taste buds, after I get tested, I realize I got it. I quarantine myself. I go through all the tiredness, the headaches, you know, the loss of smell, the loss of taste. And then after I get over the headaches and the tiredness, my sense of taste start coming back. And I go to the refrigerator, I grab this Kool-Aid, you know, I pour a big glass of Kool-Aid, and when I drink it, it's the nastiest Kool-Aid I ever drank. But I'm actually like, you know, I got a 2-gallon pitcher. I'm like down to this much Kool-Aid. That's how much Kool-Aid I had drunk out of this thing and not even realizing that it's horrible. When my taste buds kick back in, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe I've been drinking this nasty Kool-Aid. It didn't have enough sugar in it. It was just horrible, you know. And
oh man,
it just cracked me up. So this whole thing has been crazy. And I think the other side effect is, you know, I've been working out a lot. I got like this big vest that I've been wearing over my body. It's maybe like 100 pounds, maybe. And I've been wearing that and then lifting my dumbbells. In my right arm, I could curl a 45-pound dumbbell. But now in my left arm, which was my knockout arm when I was boxing, I could barely curl a 15 to 20-pound dumbbell. And I don't know what that is, but now I've been like just trying to work back the strength into this arm. You know, and it's just weird. Like I'm pushing my dumbbells on my bench, but it's like this. I got this arm up, but I can't even lift this one up, you know? So it's just been weird. And now I've just been working out, just trying to like fight through the whole thing and get the strength back in my bicep. Now, my tricep is still hard as a rock, but my bicep is soft. See that? And I'm making a muscle right now. It's soft as a nut.
Well, see, you're staying healthy though. Jeff Weber during the pandemic, he gets winded walking to the mailbox. So you're doing.
Hey, listen, my life is spent going to senior day at Costco. And by the way, I have a question. What is it about the pandemic that elevates the toilet paper to such a high degree? See, this is the stuff that I don't understand. Why toilet paper?
We all got to get a bidet.
See, I could just never understand that.
See? What? We have some comments and questions. I know we're almost out of time. Let me share some of these with you. Fran says, hey, I missed you at the Southern Christmas show last year. Hope you will come back. Joe Blunt, do you miss being out there and taking pictures and signing books and visiting with folks?
Yeah, it's been really weird. I tell you, I get used to things being a certain way, and then all of a sudden everything gets turned upside down, and you have to gotta find ways to occupy your time and try to maintain your sanity at the same time. It's been easy.
We've got a comment on here, and this is obviously someone that knows you, Joe Coleman, because she calls you Joey. Hey, wow. Joey and Joe, thankful to have had the opportunity to be in, and great show. Congratulations to all of you. This is from Claudette Coleman.
Yeah, my baby sister, my little sweetie pie sister, lives in Chicago. Yeah. So, yeah.
And a brother who also was very successful in the music business, not just you.
Yeah, William Coleman sang with the Persuaders, a thin line between love and hate. Yeah, he can sing a little bit. He can go a bit. He's kind of been retired for a few years, but he kind of does some gospel every now and then and like that. But yes, it runs in the family a little bit.
All right. See, he knows that song. Now, Joe Coleman, there's also a request here for you guys to sing, to take us out here, sing a few bars of a holiday song because we're coming into the Christmas season. And you have the cleanest audio of all of these guys. Except for Jeff Weber, and he produces, he doesn't sing.
Thank goodness.
So, Coleman, I'm putting you on the spot because we got your microphone strong. Can you give us a few bars of a holiday song, and maybe Mr. Blunt, Mr. Murphy can snap along.
Okay, well, since we talked about it, let's kind of go there. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is right.
Now, virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and
You can have from you.
Uh-oh.
deep in heavenly peace.
Yep.
That was great. Thank you, fellas. Thank you so much. Landau Eugene Murphy Jr.'s book, From Washing Cars to Hollywood Star. Joe Blunt, Joe Coleman's book is My Time to Shine. Jeff Weber's book is You Sound Amazing. Thank you to our panel tonight. And all those books are available autographed from headlinebooks.com as part of their holiday extravaganza. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and look, that's right. Joe Coleman also contributed to Voices from the Pandemic. So
Yeah.
that one is available.
Yeah, listen, you might want to grab that one too. I thank Kathy Teets for allowing me to contribute to this piece. I consider myself a real show enough author now. This is about Voices from the Pandemic. It's our kind of memoir about our personal experiences of during the pandemic and that kind of thing. My section was When the Music Stopped. And that's because I don't have a show until March of 2021 right now. And I'm not sure if that was going to happen.
Right.
Gentlemen, thank you all so much for being with us. And thank you for watching at home tonight. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas. Bye, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays, everybody.
All right, brother.
Have a filling and fulfilling
Be
holiday.
blessed.